Legends and myths have the allure of great science fiction stories. We love mysteries, unanswered questions, cursed places, and monsters. The more complicated it is to find an answer or explanation, the more appealing it becomes, and therefore rumors spread more easily. But in this top, we will focus on those that were solved in their day, but that collective memory still hasn't processed and still believes to be real. So, get comfortable, because these are the 9 great mysteries that people have forgotten were solved. In the number 9 spot, we have the Shroud of Jesus. The Shroud of Turin was enigmatic, the object said to have covered the prophet on his deathbed, and that bears the marks of his face, as well as his hands, back, and feet. Much was said and speculated, but people seem to forget that this enigma was solved when a group of scientists subjected the cloth to a carbon test. It was found that it was made in the early 1260s, which, as is evident, dismantles any hypothesis about the shroud. In short, fake. In the number 8 spot, we have the strange sounds in the Pacific Ocean, the bloop sound. During the Cold War, the US distributed several microphones on the seabed to detect Soviet submarines. Imagine the surprise when, in 1997, after listening carefully to the recordings, they discovered a very powerful sound in the Pacific. So much so that microphones separated by more than 5,000 kilometers detected the same sound. This is how the bloop sound was revealed. What you are hearing now is part of the recording. Evidently, the sample is much longer and more complete, but one can get the idea. It was said that something that produced such a sound would have to be an animal, a beast that would have to be at least 150 meters long, and maybe more. Theories abounded. Conspiracy theorists saw aliens. Dreamers suggested they could be mermaids, and some even claimed it was the work of a civilization beneath the deep and vast sea. Unfortunately, reality is sometimes much less attractive than all those ideas. The sound that covered such an expanse was produced by icebergs breaking apart, emitting that characteristic sound. In the number 7 spot, we have the fairy circles in Angola and Namibia. When this became known, it left scientists baffled for years, unable to explain why the circles formed. These circles, found in Namibia, are 4 to 15 meters in diameter and are surrounded by vegetation taller than what can be found in the same area, extending 1,500 kilometers. Indigenous people from nearby villages believed that these rings were the footprints of gods who came to visit us and inadvertently marked the path where they passed. But nothing could be further from the truth. No god made those marks, but sand termites did. It took quite some time, but they finally figured out that these circles were formed by termites digging small tunnels, circles that would take 25 to 75 years to form depending on the diameter. Professor of Biological Sciences, Dr. Norberto Agins, revealed this discovery. In the number 6 spot, we have the Ica stones. In the mid-1970s, the news broke. Thousands of engraved stones were found near the Peruvian city. Stones depicting various engravings such as dinosaurs, brain transplants, or interplanetary travel, among other things. Something truly amazing that would suggest that much more advanced civilizations than ours existed, if it were true. In 1975, Basilio Suya admitted to having created the stones at the behest of Dr. Javier Cabrera, who displayed them in his museum. Although later, Basilio recanted out of fear of reprisals. They found traces of modern paint on the stones and even the use of sandpaper. In total, they managed to make 15,000 stones, many of which were sold because, after all, it was a business. A business that would abruptly end when they were unequivocally accused of fraud. In the number 5 spot, we have the transmutation of mercury into gold. And this is, mercury can be transformed into gold, but the slight inconvenience is that the energy costs required to do so are more expensive than the gold produced. Lastly, for those who are curious, they can read The Transmutation of Mercury into Gold by Robert Nelson from 1998. In the number 4 spot, we have the extinction of the Mayan civilization. In this case, the word extinction might not be the most appropriate, as the Mayans did not disappear overnight, although their disappearance was indeed rapid and abrupt. But what could have happened for such a rich civilization to disappear? Neither divine punishments nor apocalypses. They caused their own disappearance. They were ambitious, something one can immediately perceive by looking at the ruins in Tikal, and that worked against them. First, we have the brutal deforestation they caused, destroying everything around them. Despite the popular image of them living in harmony with nature, the truth is that they didn't. The need to survive, mixed with ambition, led to a landscape destruction that left them without areas to cultivate. This was compounded by the drought they were experiencing, leaving them without the water reserves they had. And as if that weren't enough, civil wars. The great Mayan civilization, which dominated Central America for 1,200 years, disappeared by their own doing. In the number 3 spot, we have why humans age. Why do we age? What causes hair to fall out, skin to become saggy, bone problems to arise, or organs to stop functioning as before over the years? In short, why does everyone die? Leaving aside the profound and philosophical aspects of life, we will focus on the medical research that answered these questions by introducing telomeres, which are the main source of aging in the body. In a way, we can always explain that during life, the body's cells divide into new cells, and so on. When telomeres become too short, cells stop dividing and therefore stop regenerating tissues, causing aging. In the end, death arrives. In the number 2 spot, we have Bigfoot, one of the oldest legends around, along with the Loch Ness Monster. Bigfoot emerged around the 1960s as a monster that was photographed, appearing to be a cross between a giant ape and a human. It seems that in ancient times they maintained a sense of humor, as this was simply a joke. Pop and Iron Moose in a suit made by Roger Watterson and Pop Kim Link. The incident was first admitted as a joke in the 1960s privately and publicly in 2000. The incredible thing about Bigfoot is that there are true fanatics who, although they know it was a joke, believe it could have existed. The same people, I suppose, are still waiting for the Loch Ness Monster to appear again. And finally, in the number 1 spot, we have the most well-known, the Bermuda Triangle. It is said that over the past centuries, numerous ships and planes have disappeared right within the triangle formed between Florida, Puerto Rico, and the Bermuda Islands. The most recent legend began when it was reported that 5 U.S. Navy ships and 2 commercial planes disappeared in 1948 in the area. But like all legends, this one is also an exaggeration, even parts invented or simply misinformation. Without clarifying, on the day of the disappearances, there were storms. About 20 years after all these rumors, Larry Kusha published a book, The Bermuda Triangle Mystery, in which he explains how figures had been exaggerated, and not even serious investigations had been conducted, and even cases not occurring within the triangle were attributed to it. And the most interesting fact is that the area doesn't account for more disappearances than any other part of the sea. So its proportion isn't higher than anywhere else. Statistically, about 2 ships disappear per week anywhere in the world. The only thing that we can give some veracity to is the very formation of powerful and turbulent currents that can make any accident disappear. To this, add the typical Caribbean storms that turn the sea into a succession of large waves, concluding that since 1999, no disappearances have been recorded in the Bermuda Triangle. And that's all, folks. Subscribe, give a like if you enjoyed it, and see you soon.